and I'm going to begin with some updates. What's new with Bassa? Well, I will start with the community, and so we're looking at some of the things that are happening in our community. And if there are some things that I missed, you can feel free to just drop them in the chat box so that I can bring them up so that our entire community can keep current with what is happening. So we know that Shakespeare in Paradise is gearing up. That is gearing up September 19th to October 8th at the Philip A. Burrows Black Box Theater. So for all those persons who are involved, we wish you the best. And while we are on topic, we'd like to remind our members that Shakespeare in Paradise isn't being held in the main theater due to the extent of repairs needed to the Dundas. And I understand that repairs are significant. And we are imploring all of our cultural, governmental, and private stakeholders to see how we can ensure that the Dundas is rebuilt stronger. So here I have I guess what would be called a thumbnail of one of the productions, First Comes Morning. And we know that we could be expecting a few things to be coming up. Hold for 1 second. Okay, so from then on, we look at the Regency Theater. They seem to be in much need of support as well. So both of our theaters are in need of support. But the Freeport Players Guild, they're having a viewing party. And this viewing party is featuring Sir Sidney Poitier. That's going to be on the 23rd of this month. It's a documentary produced by Oprah Winfrey. This is the flyer for that. So if you are in Freeport, it would be a great thing to support the Freeport players as they're trying to get the Regency up and running. And we all know that what affects one creative affects all creatives. We want to be able to help us all elevate. And as we do that, things become easier. Also, we want to note two of our screen and stage creatives. That's Valisha Roll and Alea Hagagal. And they have staged plays to defray school expenses. They're aiming to head off. Alea, she has staged Agatha Christie's The Mousetrap last month to help with admission to Lambda. That's London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. And Valisha has staged Cinderella also in August to help with tuition for the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. So we wish these creatives all the best. And if you are looking to support some worthy creatives, these are two that we definitely recommend. We also know that we are in mid-September, but the Bahamas International Film Festival is right around the corner in December. For those filmmakers looking to make a last-minute submission, you want to think about doing that really quickly because the final deadline is September 20th. So you want to try to make your submission as quickly as you can. We thank the Bahamas International Film Festival for continuing doing a great job and ensuring that our filmmakers are well exposed and that filmmaking is looked upon well in the Bahamas and in the world. Also, Bassa has had some challenges. We are incorporated, we've gotten the incorporation, but we've had some challenges pertaining to registration and the costs regarding our back office. But these challenges, we are working with our interim directors to sort those out, but those have backed up some of our advances towards being able to get grants and supporting larger projects for filmmakers. So we have that, we have those issues, but we know that we'll be able to overcome those momentarily. In the meantime, we'll do whatever we can do to strengthen our creative community. We planned for September, um, this general meeting, as well as an industry talk with Academy Award nominated Glenn Gauthier. He's phenomenal. We spoke a bit, and he works on making films sound beautiful. He works in the audio department, and we all know that we need to strengthen that part of our film ethic, how our audio comes across. So he's known for working on The Shape of Water, if you're familiar with that film,
The Script
Spotlight, and
Association was having a meeting. I wanted
and
to.
A History of Violence. So
Okay.
those films he has worked on in the past. So if you are interested in getting a little update pertaining to film, audio, you definitely want to attend that. We're aiming for September 22nd, if all goes well. And we also looking for something to boost our screenwriters. We want to start with the screenwriters, and then we want to get going with our actors, and hopefully we'll have our face-to-face sometime in October. So that those things are coming up. So bear with us as we try to implement some of these things. Last but not least, we have our very own um, director, Moya Thompson. She has recently been hired at the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture as the Cultural Affairs Officer for Film. And she's looking to reach out to the entire community, and not just in Nassau, but all over the Bahamas. So um, as soon as we get more information, we're going to bring it forward to the community. But if you want to reach her, you can reach her at bassainfo@gmail.com, and we'll get that information. We'll get that information to you as best as we can. So that's pretty much the end of our segment. What we have been up to, we will check the chat. I'm checking the chat right now to see if there are any other contributions before we move on to our survey. Is there any other events, any other things, any other productions coming up that you would like to tell the community about? I'll just give you maybe about 15 seconds to alert me, or just open up your mics. Okay, so there's no other announcements. So we'll go on to our survey portion. We have a small survey we'd like you to fill out, and then we'd show you the results before our last segment of the meeting. And it's entitled, What Can Bassa Do For You? We're still trying to find ways to, as Clarence said, try to get trying to get a product and figuring out what's the best way to do that. Um, even though we may not have all of the things that we may think we need, others have it, and we just need to be able to produce an argument. So we're sending a form in the chat. You can see it in the chat. I would like you guys to fill that out. I give you guys about a minute to fill that form out. A minute to fill that form out. Can everybody access the form in the chat? Okay, so we will just fill that out, and then we'll produce the results for you after a minute. you're completed, just type in the chat done. And once we get a lot of dones, we'll move on to our fresh look segment for tonight. We got 3 dones. Okay, great. We got a couple of dones. So I'm going to bring on Ophir Nemore. Ophir Nemore is also a film student. She's also been working in the Bahamas on a few sets, and she's going to be our host for the Fresh Look segment tonight. So Ophir Nemore, you can take it away.
Good evening, everybody. I hope everyone's doing great tonight. I will be leading our Fresh Look segment today, and it's going to be a little interview session for Kirk and Kristian. But before we get into the real juice, I want to give you guys a little short bio about these two, Kirk and Kristian. So Kirk Beneby Jr. and Kristian Beneby are currently studying at the New York Film Academy in the New York City campus. Although they were twin brothers, Kirk focuses on set roles like cinematographer, gaffer, and key grip, while Kristian follows as a DP, AC, gaffer, and grip. They are both video directors at C3 NYC, a church filled with industry workers in the Big Apple. So I want everyone to digitally give a warm welcome to our Fresh Look guests, Kirk and Kristian Beneby, whom I like to call the Beneby brothers.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
And how are you guys doing this evening?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing wonderful. So let's get right into it, right? So what is the moment where you realized that you wanted to become filmmakers? If you've had that moment, or maybe it was like little bits of moments that made you want to do it, but what was like that one thing that was like, you know what, this is what I want to do for the rest of my
Hey,
life?
so actually, I started off doing film, like especially during the pandemic. Started off at Living Waters Kingdom Ministry, where Kristian and I started off as like camera operators, and Kristian was actually a director, like switching and stuff. And we started off then, like we just fell in love with the camera, and then we were like, hey, we need to get into like film, like directing films and stuff. So that's how we got there.
Okay, wonderful. Kristian, is that the same for you, or you do have a different experience?
I cannot forget Mr. and Mrs. Patton. They also inspired us.
Right, yes.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so tell us about searching for the right film school, because I know that, you know, there are so many film schools that offer this and offer that, but what made you guys choose New York Film Academy? Like, what was it about New York Film Academy that said, you know what, I want to attend this school?
Okay, so when searching for a film school, you would kind of want to look for a school that is more hands-on. I would say, because I'm more of a hands-on person. I learn like with my hands, and like you can't just like like the theory stuff will like get to you, like, but you don't really get it clear if you're not putting your hand on the equipment.
Right.
So New York Film Academy was like this school that really like had all of that. Like we had like hands-on stuff. We're able to like make films and like network with a lot of people. And yeah, so that was basically like the way that we went with it and how you should go with it. Like just finding the schools with hands-on.
Yeah, and also I got to that is it was a little bit less work, book work, but we still do have a little bit of book work, but there's more, you learn more about film, and you learn more about the camera, the way you light all of that. So that's why we chose New York Film Academy.
Yes.
I agree with you guys 100% when it comes to like hands-on, because as filmmakers, we want to, we want to touch the equipment, we want to get involved, we want to be in it, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So for you guys made a film before you went to film school.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, you could have decided to save up for film school money and make films. What is the advantage of taking the film school route versus taking the indie route for you?
Kirk, would you like to answer that one?
Okay, so the advantage with taking the film school route, I would say I was like there was like a lot of stuff I'm able to like learn. Like I'm able to like network with more filmmakers, like people who like already like want to be inside the industry, people who even just learning. Like I was able to like meet with people like that and like actually like work along with people who actually like have a passion for film. Whereas going like the indie way, I feel as if you will meet a lot of people, but a lot of people won't have that like they will have the passion, but the experience and stuff and like working on set, like there's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of equipment, a lot of things that we may not be able to touch, but take like going to like college, I was able to like touch like a lot of equipment, like things I never even thought were like real, so
Right.
yeah.
Also, like I got add to that as well. Going through the college route, we meet a lot of people, like not only from the United States, we meet people from India, Africa,
Everywhere around the world.
all around the world, even people from Greece and stuff like that. So these people come like different ideas, and like you get more exposure, and like someday like it's a lot of with the film, right? The college route, there's a lot of exposure and there's a lot of connections. So like when you leave school, like hopefully like those connections will not forget you. So it's just like a lot of connections, a lot of people from around the world that you meet in the college route.
Exactly. And film industry is all about connections and networking.
Yes.
Right. And I remember there's this, my professor would always say, you never know which one of these fellow students in your class is going to give you a job.
Right.
So it's always great to stay connected, and that's amazing, wonderful. So there's so many different elements that go into making a film, right? So throughout your experience in film school, like what part of the film department do you most admire or most want to get involved in? Is there like one choice, or is it kind of just, I'm just still kind of finding your way?
Well, me and her both like the technical side of it. Like we working on our films now. We have to do a lot of pre-pro, and that is like we even though we like it, we know if you do a lot of pre-production, the better it is when you start your production. But me and Kirk normally on the production side. We like figure out like the shots and like figure out where we could put the lights and stuff like that. So that's the area we really enjoy. And also I really enjoy post-production.
Okay, wonderful. Can you name experience that you guys have had while in film school that stands out to you?
That stand out. Most of our professors are like work in the industry. So, and also we go to this church, C3 NYC, and people who work on the production team there are like Emmy Award winning and Grammy Award winners. And they like, we worked on like this like big live production music video, something like that. And that was the biggest thing I've ever worked on. Be able to set up the lights, be able to set up the video wall, all of that. That was really like big for me. I was like, wow, like I was a part of this. Like I was one of the persons that made this happen. So that was the best thing so
Okay,
far.
what about you, Kirk?
Same as for me, like with like what Kristian just said, I'm going to, well, I'll say going to like C3, I was able to like find like what I really, really love to do. And it was like video directing. That's how I was able, like the role that I got. I started doing it back in the Bahamas and it was good. But when I went to like C3, I was able to, there was a lot that was coming, like a lot of things that were being taught to me, everything. So yeah, I was able to do that and like and work on like big projects, work on like films and like music videos and stuff that I've not even like touched yet in like college. Like I'm doing like bigger things now, like at the church, before I even get to like do it in college. So that is actually a plus for me. The roles, I know you asked about the roles. The roles I more go for is like a cinematographer, DP, like a cinematographer, a gaffer in the grip, like just setting up a light is something that I love to do, like putting up like flags and like floppies and all those different type of things. Even like making like video walls, all of that, I love to do it. The next thing I also like to do is like putting up like flats, like building sets. That is like also like what I was able to like learn even at the school, and it was like I really fell in love with it. So yeah.
Okay, so being on set, what is one that you learned about being on set that you didn't know before? Is there anything that like shot you and go, I didn't know that? You guys ever have one of those eureka moments?
Yes.
Yes, like there's a lot of like different words, like people who are in the end will throw at you like, get this C47 or get this Inky or Tweenie, or I'd be like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Then after a while you get it, like they just well, they just mean it like the clothespin or like, you know, the like a small light or a big light, you know, like when they throw these words, get a stinger or get the what
CTO, CTV.
CTO, CT, all of those. And like, I'd be like, where are all these words coming from? So like after a while, like we started to like get to know the film, like the talk on how they talk on
the
film.
jargon.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Wonderful. Well, guys, okay, so is there any last minute? Okay, well, I guess any advice for persons that, you know, want to get into film, maybe want to go to school, or just sure exactly like how to go about getting into film? Like, what words of encouragement would you give? What words of encouragement would you say?
I would
You can go, Kristian.
I would say like the first thing to do was like pick a place that like an area that has a big film industry, like New York, LA. Outside of New York and LA, you could go to Atlanta. Outside of the United States, you could go to India. India is a big one. India, China, and the United Kingdom. So you could pick any one of those like places, and they will be able to like get you to that place where you want to be. I'll also add is, even though we spoke about this, is connections. Connections is the biggest thing in the film industry. Like, you've got to meet people. So that's what I will leave off.
Okay, Kirk, you want to
Yeah. So I would strongly say the same that Kristian just said. And even more, I would say when you find that one school, go there with the mind that you came there to put in this work. Like, you came there to like better yourself inside the industry, like become something inside the industry. Don't just go there thinking that, oh, I just came to film school, and you know, like, go there knowing that you're inside like this, like a foreign place, trying to like be better, like build yourself, like make this like make this your career, make this something that you do single day. The next thing I'll say is like, try, like, when you go to film school, there's going to be a lot of things that you see around like happening, a lot of things that, you know, like, you're just going to realize that, hey, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, there's certain things like you will get introduced to so much different like things. And like in film schools, like I say, it would be like the worst. like where like you would like see like a lot of things happening. So like just like try to like stay positive, hang with the right people. Like you'll be inside classes with people who just there to be there. You also be inside classes with people who think they are better than each other, like people. And no, like at the end of the day, you just came there to learn. Everyone is there learning. Some people might come with experience and they think that they're bigger than you, or you might come there with no experience and you might think that you're like smaller than them. Like, no, everyone is the same. Everyone came there to learn. If you went to film school, you're an expert, then you don't belong there.
Definitely.
So yeah, so just like stay positive, just like do you, be yourself. Don't let anyone like discourage you or anything. And yeah.
Right, some very wise words. Oh, and to add to your list, Kristian, Toronto and Vancouver, a lot of productions happen over there as well.
Yeah.
Also Canada, yes. We was looking at schools in Canada, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I currently am right now.
Oh,
Yeah, so I know I said this was like the last question, but I got one more. Is that okay?
Sure,
So
yes.
you said a lot of do's. What's a don't on set?
A don't on set.
Don't on sets. I could say that.
Okay, I have one, and I'm now in a sticky situation because I had a writer who wrote my script, and I'm filming in November 3rd to the 6th. And my writer, he lives in LA. He's flying over to New York to be on my set. Everyone is like even like instructors, they'd be like, don't have the writers on set because they gonna get mad and stuff like that. So now everybody knows I have my writer on set. There's like, Kristian, we're gonna be here all day because your writer's gonna be changing a lot of stuff. So that's a don't. But if you want your writer on set like me, then yeah.
So I guess it's up to the person.
It's up to the
director.
So
Okay.
that's a don't. And
Okay,
don't.
Kirk, what about you?
I have a lot of don'ts.
List them all.
First of all, don't go on set on your phones, right?
Yeah,
Oh, no.
You're right about that.
Right. It really makes the director mad. Like as a director on my films, I hate seeing people on their phones, especially on my set.
Listen, you were ready to sound like a boss.
Like also don't be late. That's the next thing.
Right.
Like
Call time is very important.
yeah, like the time, like especially when like people are putting like money into their like films, like try not to be late. The next thing is like don't be having like side conversations on set. Like if you're having like a side conversation on set, it like distracts everyone, like even the director, like the director will be saying something to his actors or her actors, and like it like with you talking inside the background about something like totally different, it'll like distract everyone.
Yeah.
The other thing is when you're coming on other people's project, don't try to work on your projects on other people's project. Like I would say, like if I have an actor on my film, right? And Kristian is still looking for actors. Don't come to my set like in the middle of my set talking to my actor about your project.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, like it's just like certain things like that. Like even when you turn on the light, yell striking or something, like make everyone aware that you want to turn on the light. Don't just strike in. But
normally like we be using those like big lights, those big 300s and stuff like that, and they just turn on. I'd be like, oh boy, like say striking, scream it out. So
okay. Okay, wonderful. One more question before we go. I know like film school is definitely the place where you can make all your mistakes to improve and become better. Is there like a mistake that you've made that you've grown from and has made you an even better filmmaker?
Yes.
A ton
is a lot. Like I would say, because how I'm directing most of my films, like sometimes I used to talk to my actors and I used to be like, feel this way, feel that way, right? Like you can't tell an actor feel this way or feel that way. You can't just tell an actor to cry, right? It takes a process. It takes like there's certain things that they have to go through. Like they have to just be like, even if it's just simple for the actor to just go inside and run by themselves and like they just think about like everything, like what's going on, like think about the past, whatever makes them like be able to cry, right? Like you don't just come to them to be like cry. Doesn't work that way. So yeah. I also learned like stuff like with like at first I used to just like go with like to my shoots, like just mine, I would say, because at the beginning I was like mostly just shooting mine, but now I'm shooting like a lot of other people's on. So I would like go there with our shot list and just like coming up with the shots in my head like as I go, right? And now that I already passed the whole entire stage like doing that, now I'm at a stage where like I do my shot list like in like my pre-production, right? Because when you already have your shot list, when you go on set, it like you move a bit more, you move faster, like you already have your shots in mind and you won't miss anything. It's like it's well, you might, but it's less of a chance that you miss anything because like you already had that like prepared, you already thought through it, you already did all of that. Right. And it's okay to like add a shot onto your shot list than to not have a shot list at all and just making it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot more. I'll be talking like all the
I know there's so
reason.
much.
I have one, rehearsals. That is very important. Rehearsals are very important when it comes to like even like time management on set. Like if you don't rehearse and like you just, let's just say you start your film, you start your process with your whole without doing rehearsals, that's gonna take a lot of time wasted. So it's good to do your rehearsals like months or a couple weeks before you start shooting. And then, you know, because I learned from my mistake, because like the last film I did, I just had my actors come in and do and like just we just shot and like we took so long and like we wasn't even filming in New York, we filmed in New Jersey, and like we wasn't getting back to New York until like after 3 o'clock in the morning. So rehearsals is very important because it takes a lot of time, you know. So that's
Yeah,
what
I would
learned.
add on to Kristian with his rehearsals, like the rehearsals like ahead of time in your production will save you time, right? When you get on set, right? Like 12 hours you would spend on set. But like when you have a rehearsal, you could like at least do 10, like you could have 10 hours on set. Like the less like your actors feel more comfortable when they rehearse than when they just come in there and like you have to like you're like it makes them feel as if like they're like breaking ice. Like it's, you know, like so like once you do like that like preparation, once you like bring your actors in, let them feel comfortable with the space, let them like, you know, walk around, move around, so they can feel comfortable when like it's only you and them on set and like your AD or someone. But like when like the whole entire crew's on set and like you're directing your actors, it can be a lot for them. It can like be a bit overwhelming. So yeah.
Listen, I want to thank you guys so much. There are so many amazing takeaways to this conversation. And you know, you never know, maybe we'll be working together one day.
Yes,
You know, this you never know. But thank you guys so much. And I know that those who are here have definitely learned something through this conversation. So thank you guys so much. So round of applause for you guys. Round of applause. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
All right. So our next special guest goes by the name of Craig Woods. He's the director. He's the former film commissioner for the Bahamas Film and Television Commission, which is a department attached to the Ministry of Tourism, a position he held from April 2003 until September 2015. He is a certified film commissioner from the International Association of Film Commissioners based in Los Angeles, California. During his tenure, Director Woods provided oversight of 23 narrative features, Hollywood studio, independents, documentaries, and foreign language films from Germany, Der Seawolf, which shot on Grand Bahama, Bollywood Blue, shot in Nassau, and the Italian film Matrimonio alle Bahamas, shot on Exuma. Woods started his career in tourism in New York City in 1973 as a part-time worker after studies at Baruch College of New York City University. He was employed full-time. He has managed offices in Miami, Dallas, Chicago, and New York. He was responsible for directing the sales offices in Canada, USA, Latin America, and Japan. After 40 years plus promoting tourism, Woods is now retired since 2017, working and assisting Bahamian and foreign filmmakers to bring their projects to life in the Bahamas. So without further ado, let us welcome Mr. Craig Woods to the meeting.
Good evening, and thank you very much.
Yes,
Can
we
you
can
hear
hear
me?
you very well.
Wonderful. I am just so proud of you young people, because you just said from 1973. So you do the math and you'll see that, you
Been
know,
a-
this is no young person
yeah, you've been
speaking
around the
with you.
world a couple times.
I've been retired for 5 years, and before that, the industry was changing. And over the 5 years, it has changed tremendously because of a whole series of things, COVID and
Yes.
the economy, and okay, all the competition out there with Netflix and Hulu. And when I was a child or a teenager growing up in the Bahamas, we had 3 channels: ABC, CBS, and NBC. That was it. There was no PBS. There was no ZNS. And by 10 o'clock, the programming didn't stop, but you had to go to bed because your dad said, okay, go to bed. But today, there's some, God knows how many channels, 500, 600, in Chinese and Russian, in every language you can think about, okay? And you could access those things. So the world is, I'm very proud, like I said, of you young people. The world is your oyster. You can access all that information. It's at your fingertips. And you understand the technology. And the technology, the cost of it is coming down. Now, in a whole lot I can tell you that you don't know. First of all, as a film commissioner, I don't get involved in making films. My job is to know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who can bring the film to the Bahamas. So I'm pretty much an investigator. My job is to go find a guy, find out what he's shooting,
Yeah.
and what scenes can be shot in the Bahamas. Sometimes they can shoot the entire film in the Bahamas. Sometimes there are only certain scenes that are for the Bahamas. You have to know what it is you want to do. A couple of years ago, I sat with Mr. P. For those of us who got to know him, we can call him Mr. P, but that is Sir Sidney Poitier. I sat with him and he said, and I introduced him to a young Bahamian filmmaker. I'm not going to give you the name of the filmmaker. And the filmmaker wrote a screenplay, and, you know, and they were talking. And Mr. P said to him, look, you have to decide what it is you want to do. You can't do it all. Decide whether you want to be a director, whether you want to be an actor, whether you want to be a writer, and be the best of one of those things that you choose, but you can't do them all. Some people try, and you know, like people like Tyler Perry and others, they've been good at it, but it's not for everybody. So you have to build your craft, decide on what it is you can do, the best that you can do, and go out and do it.
Wonderful word.
Now, we shot a film here in 2000. Spike Lee shot a film here in 2008. It was, at the time, his biggest budget film, called Miracle at St. Anna. It was a war picture. And the closing scene was shot in the Bahamas, out at Old Fort Bay. And after they wrapped, I asked him if he would come speak with Bahamian filmmakers, and he agreed to do it. So put him in the car, and we went out to Luciano's and had a meal, and he started speaking. And one of the things he said to everybody who was there, because everybody was giving him their take, oh, here's my tape, and here's my tape, and here. He said, that's fine, but what you have to do is you all need to get together, network, work together. Those who have various skills and have mastered those skills, work together to make a film. Because you got to get something out there. You got to get your name out there. People have to know that this is what you do. And if you only have $10, make a $10 film. Whatever the budget you have that you can raise, make make the film to that budget. Now, sometimes we get greedy. You know, we want to run to Hollywood faster than we've crawled somewhere else. One of the things that's very important is collaboration, and I think just about all, Clarence Roll said it, you said it, Kristian and Kirk said it. You got to network, you know. And when I was entering tourism in the business, there was something called a Rolodex. You know what a Rolodex is?
I've heard the word before, though.
Yeah. The guy who's got the biggest Rolodex has the most. It's a card thing that spins on a roll, and you just put the names and addresses of your contacts, as opposed to creating a database, because back then there weren't computers to create those kinds of things. So you just had a Rolodex, and the guy who had the biggest Rolodex was usually the most successful. because he had all the contacts. Okay. But in filming, you have to share. You can't hold back. See, the film industry is a craft business. While there's some people who are very technical, the camera people and sound and video and editing, they're very technical people. But 70% of the other people, average Joes, carpenters, depending on what the script requires, boat builders, boat handlers, hairdressers, makeup, food, catering, that's all craft. But like I think Kirk said, one of the key things in all of those disciplines, you got to be on time. And don't use your cell phone. When they were shooting Casino Royale here with Daniel Craig, the last one.
Yeah.
They shot that in 2006, and I was on set because my job was to go on set and make sure if they pull up a tree, they put the tree back. As a matter of fact, better than how they pull it. Matter of fact, they should get a new palm tree if they pull an old dry up one,
Right.
And they were, and they were very good. They adhered to all the protocols that were required. And I was on set, and I was speaking with one of the producers. I'm not going to give you his name because he spent many years in the Bahamas. Then you go Google his name. But he used to live on Paradise Island. And so we're talking, and he said he sent one of his runners out to buy some food or some paper or something. They needed some stationery and some food. And I think they went to Super Value to get the food. And this is back in the mid, 2000, the new millennium. And back then, if you recall, there were a lot of people sitting outside Super Value selling DVDs, movie DVDs that they may have recorded while sitting in a theater. Who knows? And one of the things he asked me, he said, my person just came back and these people were, selling DVDs. He said, after we shoot this movie, will our film wind up outside one of the store? I said, I don't control that. I said, there are laws against that. And we are, a matter of fact, at the time, we were on a list of 11 countries for parodying DVDs. Yeah. And there were countries bigger than us, Brazil, China, Vietnam. I mean, these were bigger countries with bigger populations. Yeah, there's the Bahamas back then, still trying to get to 400,000 people. But still, as far as they're concerned, that's breaking the law, and it's taking away from the royalties and purchases of for the actors. Okay, and so that is something that we work through, and I don't know whether we off that list or not. I mean, the Film Commission could probably get that information to you. And speaking about the Film Commission, you need to have, I would say, at least a monthly chat with them. Mr. Chairman, you need to have a monthly chat with them just to see what they're doing, where they're going. Let's assume they're going to the Toronto Film Festival. Why couldn't one of the local film makers go with them? Why couldn't they find someone to sponsor them to go? Because when they come back, they're bringing new skills, they're bringing connections, they're bringing networks of people that they've met to hopefully shoot something in the Bahamas. It may not be a feature film. It may be a big time commercial. You just don't know. So you have to constantly network, get your name out there, and beg nicely, because you ask somebody to sponsor, you're begging, but beg nicely and show them the benefit to them.
Right. For you, what is the one thing that attracts most film producers, film productions to the Bahamas? In your experience?
There's no one thing. I mean, a lot of it is script driven. And let me put it this way. The primary thing, if it's script driven, is the water, what we call the hot look. Nobody can do the hot look, can produce the hot look better than the Bahamas. Just go outside on any good day and you see between the sun, the clouds, the way all that comes together, the glisten on the water, the colors of the water, particularly if you're going down to Exuma, where the water changes like many colors in front of you, blue, navy blue, royal blue, Asia, aquamarine, all that changes in front of you down in the Exuma Keys. So it's primarily script driven and water based. Let's face it, because we don't have we don't have any majestic looks. There are no mountains, there are no hills. I'll give you an example. When we shot Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3 here, they gave me what they call a spec book to go find these particular locations in the Bahamas. And there were a couple of high elevations. And I said, oh geez, now where we can find this stuff? So what we did was we went down to Exuma. There's a little key outside of Georgetown called Stocking Island. Are you familiar with that name? And it has like a lighthouse on top of it. And so we went on the top of that and shot down. And the way that we shot that, it looked as though we were on top of this big mountain looking at all these wonderful waters of the Bahamas. And so they came, they took a look at it. They sent a scout team out, took a look at it, and then started to sit down with us and say, okay, now these are the other things we need.
Right.
And one of the other things was a water tank, which, at the time, there was a Canadian a filmmaker out of Canadian building a film studio in Grand Bahama called Gold Rock Creek Film Studio. And that's where they built this water tank. And it was not really a water tank like the tank that they shot Titanic in, because that tank is outside Baja, Mexico. And then there's a big tank in Malta, which is like a big round, but this tank was like a marine basin that was corded off with sheet pilings to keep the water out of a certain area. And it was about the size of half a football field. And so what they did was they put these powered boats in there, connect the boats to a device called a gimbal so that they can control the motion of the boat. So when you saw the film, and it was like Johnny Depp sword fighting with Orlando Bloom, and the boat is rocking like crazy, they're doing that with the gimbal because it's all done by hydraulics. And one of the things that we were hoping would happen when I was with the Film Commission was that they would leave some of that there, if not all of it, or the government could have gotten involved and make some type of purchase for it. But it didn't happen, and eventually the film studio collapsed because the operator died, and the people who were financing it, one of them died, and things just, dominoes just started to fall.
Right. Now you said that you spoke about the hot look and focus our waters. Do you think our local film industry is taking advantage of that to present that to the world as?
Well, I think and this is just me. Like I said, I'm not a filmmaker. My job is to get it done, find the people who want to shoot. It's going to come down to the script, Somebody may write a film that involves a lot of abuse, a lot of bad things. Water ain't gonna help that. Showing a beautiful beach ain't gonna help that, okay? And showing a beautiful beach may not even convince somebody to say, oh, let me go to the Bahamas. But in the meantime, you're watching this film and people are, the whole content is different and doesn't accentuate that. Whereas if you remember the movie that Tyler Perry did, Why Am I Getting Married?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, they shot that in Eleuthera. And of course, that scene sort of complemented what they were going through in terms of their marriages, and okay?
Right.
And so you could do that kind of thing. So it's gonna come down to the script. They say something in Hollywood, if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage.
Right.
So it starts with a good script. It starts with the good story. So, and we've got a lot of wonderful stories to tell. Writers got to start writing these things, talking to people who know some of the history behind it, because it doesn't have to be a historical piece or a period piece, whatever, and get some of that information out there so that filmmakers can start making things. I mean, if you don't have, unless you're gonna make it up as you go, and you could do that. I mean, it's what they call a guerrilla style. Yeah, you could do that. But is it gonna work for you? Will it make money for you? You're doing this, yeah, you're doing it because it's in your heart and you love it, but you're doing this to make a living.
Exactly. I absolutely agree with you. Now, you were speaking previously about initiatives that the Film Commission needs to take to, I guess, put us on the international platform. And one thing that production companies, when they're scouting a place, tax incentives is one of those things that they look for when wanting to come to a certain country. And you see it in Atlanta, you see it in Toronto. Could you explain to persons in the chat right now, what are tax incentives, and in what ways can we as the Bahamas implement them so that we can have more productions come to our country?
See, well, you're in Canada and you know everything about tax incentives because that's a big deal up there. I think it's like 30% and it's bankable. I mean, you could bank it and use it as a credit against your budget. So okay, but I think in Canada, you have to employ a certain amount of Canadian workers, actors, okay, yada, yada, yada. We toyed with a film incentive. Well, I wouldn't say toy with, we just never got it completed. And perhaps we may have taken the wrong approach, but we had a film incentive that we used on 3 films. We used it on Pirates of the Caribbean, and that's, and particularly, and a film incentive is actually an incentive to filmmakers so that they can make their movie in your jurisdiction at lower cost. So that means they're getting something.
Yeah.
They're either going to get money or that 100,000 hotel bill, they don't have to pay that.
Right.
Which is just like
Yes.
money, because if they have to put that out, that has to be included in the budget. But if somebody's going to pay for that for them, whether that's the hotel or whether that's some entity, that's a line in the budget that they don't have to be concerned about because it's taken care of. So tax incentives or incentives are basically an instrument to allow filmmakers to amortize more of their budget and stretch their budget, make their budget go farther. Now, the big Hollywood studios, they want to, they could make their movies without the incentive, but they want it too, because everybody is looking for help. And so what we did was back in the around 2002, 2004 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8, during that window, we used the ministry's film incentive on 3 films, Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3. So those were 2 films that were shot back to back. And then we did it on Casino Royale, which was a James Bond film. And then we did it with a local film because we wanted to, it wasn't, local films were not excluded. They just had to meet a certain spend. Let me explain that. No, let me explain. The foreign films had to spend a minimum, I think at the time, I don't recall now. No, I think it was, they had to spend, a minimum of,
I believe it was $1 million.
yeah, right, a minimum of $1 million. And thank you, Clarence. And it was capped at 15 million. And so the government would pay up to, no, it was capped at 5. Yeah, it was capped at 5 million. So the government would pay up to $5 million, between 1 million and 5. If they didn't spend $1 million, they didn't qualify. And in the case of the Bahamian filmmaker didn't have to, I don't think the Bahamian filmmaker had to meet a minimum standard. But those things, those are long gone. You have new people in the seat. So I think Bassa will have to agitate with the new film commissioner, put a plan together to see how they can get support from the government. And, if the government decide to put in a film incentive, fine, or if they decide to put a policy in place whereby a certain amount of money is allocated to support both foreign and local films, then so be it. But you're going to need support. It's as simple as that, because filmmaking is expensive. The economy is going through the roof. Cost is going up, and it isn't cheap anymore to make these films. I mean, wages have gone up. So there's a whole series of expenses that filmmakers are faced with. And if they can find an institution, whether it's the government, well, it's going to have to be the government, because I don't see the private sector, doing it, because that's not their interest. Their interest is, okay, how do we benefit? You're bringing in a film, you're shooting a film. How many sodas I'm going to sell to your crew? How many rooms I'm going to sell to your crew? How many, tour buses your crew need to drive around the island? So that's their interest. And they'll sit down and negotiate some prices with you. But at the end of the day, as far as they're concerned, that's the role they play.
Right. There is a question in the chat from Brett
Yeah.
Davis that I want to ask. If a script calls for a generic tropical location, what are the typical factors that make a production settle for the Bahamas over other destinations?
The water.
Back
The
to the
fact that
water.
our waters are, yeah, you remember, you're too young to remember this, but we used to have back in the 50s and 60s, young boys, they were called diving boys.
Mhm.
You ever heard of that term? When
No.
the cruise ships would come into the, yeah, well, Clarence, you know of that term. The cruise ships would come into the harbor and the tourists would throw coins off the cruise ship and the boys would dive off the ship and catch the coin before it hit the bottom. You know,
Mhm.
well, you know why that was possible? Because the water is so clear. Matter of fact, as the coin goes down, it magnifies, so it even gets bigger. They can see it. Whereas if you go to some of these other places to shoot, the water ain't that pretty. It ain't that clear.
Right.
And then you have to cheat. You have to do all kind of photoshops and stuff. And at the end of the day, the customer could tell. They say, "Oh yeah, that ain't the real deal." But but because this is the $2 movie, no problem. No, it's because of our waters. Our waters has been proven scientifically. There's a poster called the Moonshot. It was done by the astronauts that walked on the moon in 1970.
Mhm.
And they took a picture from the moon back to Earth. And the thing that showed up most clearly that they could put their finger on that particular piece was the Bahamas. They could put their finger and say, "That, you see that color right there on this shot of the Earth? That's the Bahamas." And it's true. Right. Well, just recently, the International Space Station, and it was in the papers a couple of years ago, an astronaut, Scott Kelly, he was at the International Space Station. He was taking pictures of all the universe and sending back to his 12-year-old daughter. And one of the things he did was he took a picture of the Earth, and the Bahamas showed up, and he said, "This is the most beautiful thing from space." From space, okay? Oh, sorry, there's a new face popped up.
I think he's gone now. Yeah, it's good now.
Okay. Okay, so all I can say is continue to build your craft, network, make movies, get your name out. And when you make movies, don't make them just for local consumption. Make them so that they can be shown to the world.
Right.
Okay? Because some of our stories are not that different. We're on an island. We're not in New York City.
Mhm.
But some of the social problems that we have, they have in a big city. We just having those problems on an island. But don't always, focus on the problems. Focus on the beauty of humanity.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't want. I'll give you an example. I saw a film a couple of weeks ago called "I Know Why the Crawdads Sing." It's about a young woman who was abused, and you know the
That
film?
film sounds familiar.
Yeah, she was abused, and she eventually, gained the strength to get out of her abusive situation and improve her life, and because she couldn't read and write and do none of those things, and she became eventually an author and drawing pictures for books and everything. So it's just remarkable.
Amazing.
Okay, what else?
All right, let's jump right in. Okay, so I have one more question. Okay, so as it relates to international productions, what ways can we attract more international productions to the Bahamas? And this is like a two-part question. And then what approaches can we use in building the film industry in the Bahamas for our local market as well as our international market?
Well, to get the international people, you got to go out to them, go attend the trade shows, attend the film festivals, network. If you got somebody who knows a lot of people, and the film commissioner knows people who knows people, continue to talk to those people. Send them pictures of the latest new attraction that the Bahamas just opened or was built or whatever. Just keep feeding them information and asking questions. Improve your websites. Just keep getting stuff out. In terms of getting international local filmmakers to shoot projects. Is that the second question?
Well, how can we improve the film industry for local filmmakers so that they are able to make films over here for international market.
Yeah, they need a support base.
Yeah,
Because they can't do it on their own until the industry grows. Okay.
right.
And they're behemoths who've been making films off and on for about 30, 40 years. But they get discouraged, they drop out of doing it. They don't build their craft because it's not paying off, so they go back to being an accountant or being a fisherman or whatever it is they were doing, because the industry just hasn't grown. So, and that's because they weren't networking. You know, Jimmy was doing his thing and Abaco and the other person was doing his thing, and there's no dialogue going on and no help. And now that you have a government that is pro the creative society, you need to talk to them. You need to say, look, you know, this is us, this is Bassa, and this is what we want to do. And these are the people who can do it. And this is the kind of help we need. And whether it's help in terms of, say, for instance, you're bringing in a camera, you shouldn't have to pay duty on that. If they want to help you, they may not say, okay, we're going to give everybody, we're going to put together a $1 million budget and everybody, you know, write their scripts, and scripts will be approved, and the 5 scripts can avail themselves of that $1 million. That may not happen. But there are other things they can do. Sponsor you to go on some trips to meet some people. Reduce the duty on your camera, or eliminate the duty on the camera or whatever equipment you bring in. But I guess you'll have to prove that, you know, you're a bona fide filmmaker. You're a member of Bassa, which is a registered body. So those kinds of things, I think, will help the local filmmaker advance and get ahead. And then that allows you to start to network with filmmakers in the Caribbean. Jamaica has a thriving film industry. Trinidad has a good industry. U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. Haiti used to, but, you know, there's just so much conflict, you know.
You know, that's so much to take in, and such amazing and wise words from you. And hopefully that has fallen on good soil, and we can take all of those of the information that you've given us, and we can actually act on them. So
well, you know, there's no magic formula. You're smart enough to know that. This is a process. It's going to take time.
Yeah.
In the early 2000s, I met Taylor Hackford. You know who he is? You ever heard of a film called The Officer and the Gentleman?
No.
The Devil's Advocate?
Yeah, I know about The Devil's Advocate. I watched that.
With Al Pacino.
Yeah, and Keanu Reeves.
You're right. He directed those.
Officer and a Gentleman, starring Louis Gossett Jr.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It was more like a love movie than a military movie.
Yeah, no, it was a love movie between Richard Gere and you know, the young woman. I can't remember her name.
Yeah,
but
well,
anyway,
Richard Gere, yeah. No, go ahead.
Yeah, anyway, he did Ray. You remember the movie Ray?
Of course.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx won the Oscar, right?
Yes.
It took him 13 years to make that film. From his mouth to us, because I was in a conference and he was, you know, I was in the audience. And he explained why it took that long. Because the big studios wanted it to go to television. And he said, no, Ray is too big to be lost on television. A movie, you know, a movie of the week or Saturday night movie, and then it's gone, right? And then it goes into reruns and da-da-da-da-da. No, he said, it's okay, it's gonna get lost. And so he just kept on holding out, until eventually somebody believed in him, wrote him a check for the amount of money, and Ray was made. So Ray was an independent film. It wasn't a studio film. But it took 13 years. So you're going to find, you know, some of your group at Bassa going to hang around for whatever the time is. I don't know what that time is. I'll be maybe dead and gone, and somebody said, geez, you know that guy? Wow, he did say it's going to take a while. It's a process. But while it's a process, you got to keep networking. You got to keep doing the things that you do, that you love, the things, you know, keep building the craft. Keep agitating to the government, and in a nice way. Don't cuss them out. In a nice way, okay? You know, there are ways to be forceful but still do it, you know, diplomatically and nicely.
Right.
And then you have to show them. So whenever you get your first, you know, short film or whatever it is, bingo, have a special screening and invite them, particularly the ministry that's responsible for it. what's that, youth sports and culture. Let them come out and invite them to a screening, get somebody to sponsor some wine and cheese, and pizza, bingo. And then when they finish and didn't like it, okay, now we're gonna be doing more of this, but you need $50,000. How can you
Right.
help? They got a network of people who can probably, find ways to make it happen.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I would personally want to keep this interview going, but I know we have more on the agenda to do. But thank you.
Oh, I'm
so
sorry, I
much,
didn't, you
Mr.
mean, start talking to old people, we just go on forever.
I know. Listen, I love the stories. We
And
can keep
repeating
this going.
ourselves.
We
Yeah.
can keep this going. But I know there's more to that needs to be done with the meeting. But thank you so much. Such amazing anecdotes and there's so much information that we can take in. And yes, it is a process, and we're just gonna keep pushing until we get to our destination, right?
Yeah, one more thing before you go,
All right.
just to show you, the diversity of the Bahamas as a country and also as a location. The film commissioner can probably tell you, we shot an Indian film here from Bollywood.
Okay.
Yeah, back in 2008. It was called Bollywood Blue. You know what they did? They actually copied some of the scenes of, remember the movie called Into the Blue with Paul Walker and Jessica Alba? They kind of copied that and made it the Indian version. And then they shot over Labor Day. So what they did was they included the Labor Day parade in the film. So you got all these people walking down with all these PLP shirts on in the film.
That's amazing. I'm going to look for that.
Yeah, look, go Bollywood Blue. And then they shot here for about 3 weeks, stayed at the Ambassador Hotel. That's now Breezes, but back then it was called the Ambassador Beach
Right.
Hotel. And then they went to Thailand to shoot. And then they determined, hey, we need to come do some pickup shots back in the Bahamas, but they already shot the budget. They shot the budget because some of the top actors, they had put all of them at the Ambassador Beach Hotel, right? But they got wind of, hey, why can't we be staying at the Atlantis? And so they moved some of the top actors over to Atlantis and didn't bring the second tier actors over. And so that created a budget situation for them. And so they had to come back and do some pickup shots. They didn't have the budget to do it. You know what they did?
What did they do?
They took Bahamian flags and put all along the street of Thailand, and that was a
Wow.
Bahamian sea.
Creativity. Thinking on their feet.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like Kirk and Kristian say, you're going to come in contact with contenders in this industry and pretenders. Listen to the contenders, forget the pretenders.
Right.
Because all they're going to do is, they line every time you see them. So the contenders will they'll be truthful with you and tell you the right thing and guide you properly. So that's it for tonight, and I hope it was useful to all of you. And thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much again. And that's it for me with Fresh Look. Back to you, Javon. Enjoy the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much, Ophir. I thoroughly enjoyed all of those discussions. Thank you so much, Kristian and Kirk. You guys are amazing. Keep doing a great job over there. And definitely we are working hard so that when you guys come over here, you guys could help to give a boost to our production, echoing what Clarence said at the beginning. Talking is great, but we're talking for a reason. We're talking to be able to make films, to be able to, for those persons who are on stage, to be able to get those projects written up and begin rehearsals. We have to have something to show. And tips like from Mr. Craig Woods about what these productions are doing when they come over here. We need to pay attention to those because every market wants different things. I can even remember my experience in Canada. You can think that, certain Bahamian culture would be something that everybody wants to see. And when you get over there, it isn't, you have to learn what different markets want. But we all know that most markets, they really appreciate the Bahamas as a whole and the look of the water, the pristine beaches, and being able to get some good storylines around those, do some good, and or finding creative ways to use our culture to tell good stories. So we can't just allow persons to come from outside and appreciate it, and we don't appreciate it in our storytelling as well. So thank you so much, Director Woods. Thank you so much, Kirk and Kristian Beneby. I'm going to just share my screen to show a bit of the, let's bring that up here, survey, before going into our last segment, which will be short, but it's definitely needed. So here, looking at my screen, what is most important to the persons in our Zoom right now? We're looking at 33% being grants and funding, and we're looking at 33% also being getting film and stage jobs. So trying to get the work and also being able to attain the funding to maybe start your own productions. And we also talked about what sort of funding levels we were looking at, just to kind of get an idea. And all around, we're getting 33% at the, this is the 6,000, the 10,000, the 15,000 amounts for staging a play. And for completing a film project, we're looking at most of our persons being in the $10,000 range in terms of aid for completing a film project. The resource that we require the most funding for in terms of a production, we're looking at 40% being post-production, editing, getting the sound recorders, getting the music done, that sort of thing. Equipment, 20%, purchasing and developing the scripts, 20%, and production and production crew and stage, that being 20% as well. It's interesting seeing the post-production, because really it is expensive, but a lot of persons who actually go into indie productions end up knowing how to, I guess, film. They end up being the cinematographer, and they also end up being the editor. They end up being the colorist. So a lot of persons don't end up spending so much on their post-production, but if you are a producer and you're not involved in any of that process, yeah, you are spending a lot of money when it comes to post-production. And then we asked, what is one problem that is stopping you from creating or being a part of a production in 2022? We have somebody that doesn't have that problem as yet, which is great. We have two persons talking about funding, lack of funding for projects, financial resources. We also have one person saying limited time, and we also have lack of government incentives to court top productions to the region. So we are looking at some of the challenges that are reflected in a lot of the industry creatives. And what we'll do is we'll try to think about these things and how can we resolve a lot of the problems that that are stopping us from getting into production, because we really need to create the argument that there is a film industry here. We just need some resources to get going. So let's go into our last discussion for tonight, which is there a growth path for making films in the Bahamas? Is there a growth path for making films in the Bahamas? So pretty much we understand that when businesses, traditional businesses, they get started, you want to start with a business plan of some sort to kind of have an idea of who you're going to target, what sort of budget is being required, what you are offering, and is there a demand for it? Is there, or would you say, as a creative, do you have a business plan for your film production, stage production? Would you say that you have a business plan for it, or is it just a matter of having the script? So this segment, persons are open to open up their mics And let's just get into this discussion so we can sort a lot of these things out as to how we can get our productions going even in this year. Do you actually go through with a business plan or have some sort of business strategy before you start filming or before you put on a stage production? So I see Leonardo Newman, open up your mic.
Oh, all I say was yeah.
So talk with me. What sort of business plan or approach do you take when you go into creating a new film?
And I have overall. Well, oh, so in terms of that, so making a new film, I guess the idea would be, which is kind of funny because I actually didn't do it on this last one, but that was because of different reason. Anyway, the idea is basically as indie filmmakers, I'm trying to say this in a very politically correct way, but sometimes y'all are safe what I say around me. So anyway, as indie filmmakers, the idea is your film will most likely not reach everyone because you don't have the budget to try to get that film to reach everyone. So basically, when you're going into making a film, you want to know who you targeting with the film. And then hopefully that target audience is so strong that they will share it with other people. And then people who you didn't initially target will start to watch it. And then that's how you get it to reach more people. You can never market to, unless you have money, you'll never be able to market to make a film to say you want as much people as possible to like it. So you try to do it for a broad audience. The idea is, for me specifically, is do it for a niche audience. And if we're able to get the niche audience to care about it, people in that audience are going to tell their friends, and then their friends who may not really care will watch it. But if they like it, well, and then it keeps spreading like that, so on and so forth. So that's sort of an overall approach. And then that's from writing, and so for instance, making a movie about vegans because it's important, because that you got a lot of vegans over here. So you make a movie where maybe a vegan fall in love with a meat eater and figuring out how that works, whatever. That's just an example. But yeah, but that just has a built-in audience in itself, right? That example.
So you think about audience first. You think about who you're going to target, and then you write your script based on that.
Because I am in a position where whatever script I write, I'm going to make, yes. If I was just like a writer who just trying to make money as a writer, then you might want to try to write the best script you could, no matter what it is, right? But whatever I write, I have to be able to make for me specifically. So yeah. So
what about your demographic? Does your demographic or demographic you go after? Because you are a writer, you're kind of you kind of have like a lot of roles going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, you decide what your script is. You decide who you're going after. Do those decisions impact your bottom line? Like, does it help you to sustain your filmmaking?
So that's the idea. You have I say idea because this is still, it's all an idea. I've only made one feature film so far. So, I only have that as my litmus test. This next one, we'll see if it's right or wrong. But
I want to come back to that. I saw
the idea.
Kirk had. Sorry, go on.
No, I just went to say the idea is as an independent filmmaker, whatever you're doing, if you actually want to be able to do this as a career and not just make one film and be done, or have to wait another 7 years or something before you make the next one, whatever you do, your mind has to be you always have to be aware of your bottom line. Atlantis core value used to be a sustainable bottom line performance. So yes, that is always at the back of my mind, because my goal isn't just to make films just for the sake of making films. I want to make films to feed my family.
Right.
And so that is always on my mind. It's like, how do I make this film sustainable? Help me to make money. And how do I then approach it to be a sustainable method per se? So, so that could go from targeting niche audience to finding locations at reasonable cost, so saving on budget in terms of those different aspects and stuff like that, and then figuring out the best way to premiere it. For instance, just I try to decide where I'm going to premiere my next film. If I premiere it at church, I have a built-in audience and I can make all my money back. But in the end, at the same time, it's a movie and I wanted to premiere at in a theater, but I may not necessarily make all my money back. You see what I said?
Right, and it can be a more expensive venue.
Yeah.
Speaking about this process, I ran into some filmmakers at the Bahamas International Film Festival. They had already gotten a film into stars. I think they'd gotten a film into stars, and it was a pretty good film, but they made absolutely no money on it. And they said, the process or the purpose for this film really was to get their name out there, as a production company, and to also boost the second film, which was really what they were trying to sell. So I mean, like that could be a huge loss, like depending on how much money went into that first film, right?
Yeah.
Kirk, you had your hand raised. Do you have a particular strategy when it comes to sustaining your film career?
Yes. So basically what I normally do first is come up with the story, right? I put everything aside and I'd be like, okay, right? What do I want my story to be about? Who do I want to see this film? Like who would like this film? Like try to find out like everything that I could do with this story, right? Then after that, I figure out, like I said, my target audience, right? After that, I write it out, right? The first draft is always like the crazy draft for the film, right? The first draft is like literally the crazy part, right? So I write on my first draft. Then once I write on my first draft, I go to now start doing the budgeting, right? For the film. Like, how much am I willing to spend on this film? What are the things that I need for this film? Like, what do I vision like myself needing for this film, right? After that, when I see that, okay, I can only have my budget for this film can only be like $4,000, right? If I have a 24-page script, right, with a bunch of locations, a lot of stunts, a car being rigged, then a lot of like crazy scenes, underwater scenes and stuff. Okay, I then now have to find in myself to like say, okay, I have to now cut this out, whereas it can fit into my budget. So that is like the way that I am moving, like with making my films. Even with the one that I'm making now, I actually did that same thing. Like I made my first draft, then I went on to like doing my budgeting part of it, right? When I already figure out my budgeting part and like what I'm able to spend, like what I could afford, and like where like I can find money, then I adjusted my script whereas I could like accommodate it, right? So
And these scripts are short films?
Yeah, these are short films.
Now, I know you haven't gotten to any feature length work,
right?
But you guys are in college. I'm sure it's a question that you guys may be thinking about. One day you guys are gonna want to make your first feature, right? And it's gonna need to get financed. And at the end of the day, you guys are gonna need to not owe a bunch of people money.
Right.
Hopefully, right?
Right.
Have they discussed ways in film school as to how to approach, sustaining sustaining a life in filmmaking?
So now, well, the process that I'm going in now, right? It's either you spend your own money or you get something that is called crowdfunding, right? So that is kind of like the way that they're like teaching us to get like crowdfunding, like to talk about, like make a video, talk about your film, say what the film made to you and how like you're like what even the meaning of the film is, right? And like try to like get to your target audience, right? And see if people would actually like give to your film, right? That is the way that my school now is like teaching us how to do it. Because like right now, you can't just come, it's really hard to come with a film and people just like, you know, I'll fund your film. Like your film have to make sense. That's us, like it has to be like, you know, like great, I would say, for people to like just like, you know, just come up and be like, I'll give you something. So like you have to like work for it. Like you can, and if you just decide to like just taking the money straight out your pocket, then I mean, it's really a risk, like taking money straight out of your pocket. Like you can't just take like $10,000 out of your pocket to make a film and then it doesn't really make it anywhere inside the industry, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. And you could definitely find yourself in a really deep hole.
Right.
But how do you know that your film is marketable? Do you do testing? Do you test your demographic? How do you know that this is the film that I'm going to throw all this money behind?
Well, I personally would say, well, from my experience, right, from what I've done so far, right, I would say my first films, like the ones that I was working on first, if someone was to bring them to me to like try and like say that they would like money for it, I wouldn't do it, right? I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna be straight up, right? But now, like with the ones that I'm like making, like what I recently made and like what I'm about to make, like try to be different, right? Try not to be like everyone else. Try not to have like the same exact film like what someone else has. Like I came up with this thing, like this film now that I am working on, right? I thought about it this way because a lot of my instructors and stuff is like, oh, it's a vampire, you should go the vampire route, right? And I was like, no, I want to go the siren route, right? Because I'm also thinking about myself. I'm like, when my films go inside a film festival, right? Think about the amount of vampire movies that are going to be inside that festival, and think about more of the siren movies that are going to be inside the festival, right? It's going to be more vampire movies than sirens, right? So that is like how I thought about it. And like,
What
I was
about
like,
over here?
I need
You
to be
think
different.
audiences would be into the siren route over here, over the vampire?
Yes, I mean, because like you don't really hear that much about like siren films because like a lot of people just go like do the vampire, like people like every single, like even if you go on Netflix or something, like all you will see is like vampire movies. You'll never see a siren movie. There's been like only like a few like big siren movies that it came out, and because no one is really making it like that, because like you have to know exactly what a siren is, like you have to build that character, like that siren, like correct for people to go towards it.
But does it make it riskier? Because they're doing the vampire movies because they know it works, right?
Right.
Now, I mean, of course, it's Little Mermaid, right? But she isn't eating anybody's head off, right? but sirens. I think there's a series out, right?
Yes, there is.
I'm gonna come back to this discussion. I'm gonna come back to this siren discussion. I see Travis Miller on the Zoom. Travis, are you available to talk? Travis, you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Travis, great. How are you, man?
Good, brother. All is well?
All is well. Now, for everybody who doesn't know, that Travis is the go-to guy when it comes to business, when it comes to business plans. I'm glad he's actually on the Zoom call. Now, Travis, you're not directly in the creative field, right? But you know business, and at the end of the day, this has to be show business, right?
Right.
Is there anything that we're missing in terms of, because at the end of the day, this is still a business.
Right.
Is there anything that we've talked about? You've heard Leonardo, you've heard Kirk. What do you think we may be missing when it comes to setting up a plan for making a film, if we wanted to sustain itself and hopefully us?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in terms of what most people miss is that, again, from the creative art side of things, right? Is that there's the creative, is the fun thing that you want to do, you want to tell stories, but we often miss is to really think about it as a business, as a sustainable business, right? I mean, to some people, you might think about it, yes, as a business, you might have money in mind that you're thinking about, like what that you definitely have money in mind in terms of what things cost and what you have to spend. But little, in my experience of talking to different people and creators in different pieces of the field, like from artists to whatever, there's little attention brought to, thinking about how do I make this thing that I am doing sustainable. To bring it more home to like the film industry, I think a lot of people are just still trying to get over that hurdle of, getting one project out of the door, right? So like one main thing that they want to work on. But if you are thinking as a studio, that's not going to be your only project. So like you have to think about, how am I going to turn, if this is going to be a sustainable business, it's really going to be just one project. It's going to be multiple projects that hopefully you can get through to come across. And then if you think about it that way, you have to think about it in a business in terms of the assets that you're going to use, and you continue to be using salary, recurring costs and stuff like that. So I think the biggest thing and advice I would give everybody is to think about it in the whole as a business. Now, I am going to drop a link in here, which is a tool that we use in the industry called a business model canvas. Now, I don't know if people here came across this, but this is a tool that we use, especially with our clients, in terms of mapping out all the primary components of what a business, the main meat and potato of the business should be wearing on a day-to-day basis. And businesses in the film industry could also use this tool as well too. This should work twofold for everybody on the call, is that you think about, conceptually how the business would work for you, but then also this helps you primarily in pitching your idea and your business to those people that you're going to reach out to in order to get your ideas funded. So it's a business model canvas. If you want to grab the link I just dropped in the chat. But I think that's the biggest thing, bro. I think it's like we get caught up on having this great story, and people like the story and people bite on it. But if you're talking to a serious investor or a funder of the project, they want to know that at bare minimum they'll get a return on investment. If not a lot, they still want to get at least what they put in back on the project. And it's so funny that before hopping on this call, I was just watching I just finished watching the morning show on Apple TV with Mark Duplass. And then I was watching Industry on HBO, which his brother is in as well too, Jay Duplass. So I was doing a little bit of history on the Duplass brothers, and come to find out that they were struggling artists for years, but their niche is like independent movies, and they just as going through the industry and really staying in that independent mumblecore niche, they finally hit a project that they made a lot of money off of, especially when they went to a few Sundance film festivals. But they worded, when I listened to an interview that they were both on, is that they came across, like they found a formula that worked for them in order to make a great return on investment. A lot of their projects they fund themselves, but they've figured out a model in which they could fund projects and then also help other people with their projects by funding their projects. And there's an interesting thing with them too, where like they're still in the industry and they found their niche moving from movies to like going like television and serial programming, because that's their pocket. They say they have stories that have long form that go over it's multiple episodes and seasons, and then that allows them to fund their projects as well too. So I also would throw out to other people as well too. You might be thinking of a project as a full-on movie or feature length, but don't pigeonhole it to something that could be serial. And another example I'll point to is like something like Issa Rae, in terms of how she started with Awkward Black Girl before she transitioned into like Insecure, right? So there's gems in terms of getting that experience from doing so much of that over a period of time, but you find your your niche in terms of how you want to tell the story, but how you make your production. And then over time, especially if you use tools like the business model canvas, you get lean, you get better, you get sustainable in terms of what your costs are, how you can maximize your revenue, who your key partners are in terms of who you need to work with, honing in on your audience a lot more. I think a lot of people, especially hearing on the call, that people get what a target audience is. But that audience is just just a piece of the puzzle that works together. How are you getting the money from their pocket to your pocket? Is it going through cinema? Is it going through direct buy? Are you going to do something where you have, just a digital imprint where you just release everything through streaming? All those things you have to think about on top of how you tell the story. And then you have to work that in a model in terms of how dollars move from your consumers or your investors to your business to keep pushing out product. I mean, your product in terms of a creative sense.
Man, that was a wealth of knowledge that you laid down. And it's true. The foundation, we have to try to build this thing sustainably. And thinking about it, right? I looked at, I don't know if you've seen what Corel did. She did, I think it's like a web series sort of thing. And I think it attached with a book. Easy Love.
Yes.
And attached with a book. I think some of the scenes were shot internationally, and but it was short. Each episode was short. And then with that,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I was just finding the video to drop in the.
oh yeah. So with that, I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, what's she targeting financially? Is it to make the money of the book? She has shorter production cycles, and that the episodes don't have to be too long. It's not too much people in it. So is that the strategy? And then you have some of the longer serial productions, like Moya. She did It Takes a Village, and then I worked on Gippy's Kingdom, and then you saw financial routes in it, such as you had spot ads in those productions, and that you could cycle out for maybe you could go a couple of weeks showing your production, and that's buying you more audiences, is building up your audience. But then when you start thinking about film, or you start thinking about movies, it doesn't seem as clear. But that some of the bigger productions are doing product placement, right? That some persons are they're funding it, and you don't know why, right?
So it's so
they're
funny
getting
that
money at the front end. How do you do that?
Yeah, so it's another interesting model out there that I come across that was so cool in terms of how they do this production. Is this series called The Chosen. So it's about the story of Jesus, right? And it's a crowdfunded project. It is released through an app called, I think, Angel TV or whatever like that. It's all through the app, but their funding model is based on crowdfunding. But their pitch and their angle of it is that you giving your money is allowing someone else to watch this, right? So it's almost it's sharing is their creative take on sharing the gospel, in terms of, you're not paying for this to stream this. I mean, you could get a few episodes free, but what you're really doing is that you can, for every X amount of dollar that you donate, you reach X amount of people, right? And they also build in, just like a crowdfunding project, like niches and gifts in there as well. So you might get a T-shirt or a hoodie, but this is no low budget project. This is a very structured, a very expensive project, but it is a worldwide audience to a degree. And they don't have like a rigid launch date. Like if a season drops, or a season in a regular show would come back on after X amount of months. I think right now for the third season that they're trying to do is taking way longer than a normal series would drop, but they do a good job either keeping people up to date, showing people behind the scenes of projects, exclusive like movie releases as well too, and then also like deals on merch or whatever like that.
But
And
they're pretty niche, right? They're dealing with like a Christian audience, I'm guessing.
yeah. But I mean, not only, I mean, it's a very solid production. I mean, even if you're not like a full-on Christian, is still something that I feel like Christian, non-Christian, whoever you may be, would still watch because the production is so good. You know, it's almost a period piece. The acting is really good. And the production and the quality is really good as well too. So it's almost like, yeah, it's that main niche, but it's definitely open to people. It's very palatable to people who might be curious on what this is and what this is all about. And then they built that following in which, you know, somebody dropped in the group and said The Chosen spends about 8 million per season with 8 episodes per season, right? So it's very limited, but they do a lot in that. I think each episode is like maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and they'll have like Christmas specials and stuff like that. But again, they found their particular niche in doing that and raising funds using technology like the app that they go through. They stream and they do their streaming through YouTube. They have their Facebook group, and again, the content in which is discussed is almost like its own subculture as well too, in terms of the Bible and you know, people discussing different scriptures and stuff like that. That isn't to say to transition to like another thing in terms of how you build worlds and universes around stuff like Atlanta, you know, with Childish Gambino and Donald Glover, right? Where like he has this story that he's telling in this unique landscape, like, but really talking about Black culture in different contexts, whether it might be in Atlanta or in Europe this last season. But he also creates music. He knows how to create music. He's been writing for years, and he almost builds the soundtrack and knows how to curate the soundtrack for this world. So where he might be limited in his episodes, he has a universe in which you could listen to music that kind of ties back in and build that world around him. And similar to Issa Rae too, in terms of she not making music, but she curates a music and a soundtrack for what Insecure is that you could play in the backdrop of life that almost enhances what she tries to do from a production perspective.
Man, you are really you come with the fire, man. And I do think that we have to start exploring some different routes in terms of how we approach production. I'm going to ask, I don't know if Gayleen is on with us tonight. Gayleen, are you there?
Yeah, she just messaged in the group.
Hi, yes, I am. Good evening to everyone.
Gayleen definitely is a sister to me, and I know she has also been working on trying to get some productions going. Have you in your mind figured out probably what we're doing wrong or what we need to be doing? I mean, from your experiences trying to get films done?
Honestly, from my perspective, I stand more from the vantage point with Craig earlier this evening in stating solidarity in the Bahamas is key or networking when it comes to the film industry, especially because you have little fishes, but everyone is in a big pond, or little fish, sorry, but everyone is in this big pond. And the only way for I see projection or advancement is unity. You know, the mindset, having gone to the Film Academy, New York Film Academy, and working on, you know, sets, film sets, and working along with different writers, producers, and directors, so on and so forth. I find that for the lack of a better way to put it, without poise, it's prevalent or evident that the Bahamas is disconnected or disjointed when it comes to us presenting a unified front in the market so that every person can be, how shall I say, noted in the industry. Because Craig mentioned Jamaica as one of the countries that has a booming industry, and that is so, and they made it in the sense, if you look and you study their path, you would see that there were multiple small independent filmmakers, but they decided to unify. And that is where their market, that niche came in, and they were able to approach. Everyone knows the African movies, you know, Netflix picked them up because of the sell by product. And like I said, for the Bahamas, Bahamians just have to stop being myopic and want to advance beyond, you know, just being an island. No man is an island. So that's been my kind of experience. I've had more success externally as opposed to internally. One of the don'ts that I've experienced is, thankfully, the grace of God has always been with me, where people, as millions and millions of dollars on a set, God allowed me to walk in and grant me favor where the person, the property owners would be very giving and generous and say, you don't have to pay, you know. So those are the type things. I think when Ocean Club could say to you, you could use my property for marketing purposes in your film. I think that in and of itself speaks volumes to the in the international market. Yeah, you know, I hate to say it, but Bahamians, we got to realize that it's not about us, singular, but it's us, plural. I gave the Ministry of Culture, and I want you to hear me very well when I say this, on 6 different occasions, a trailer. And every time the trailer is lost. That one trailer could be found internationally with the person who's holding, you know, for the funding aspect of it, for me to get acquire more funding for the film in one shot. So it's sad, but it's been my reality.
You feel discouraged.
I can't speak for anybody else. Yeah, that's the truth. And I've decided, you know, within myself, and you know, like I talk about being selfish or unselfish. I decided, you know, it's best to pull away. Sometimes you can help people by helping yourself for yourself. You know, Bahamians, like I said, you know, we rather pull down a person rather than build. Like, okay, I'm gonna use, I see Moya is on screen. If Moya gives me a product to market for her, I care less about Moya's position or anything about Moya other than the fact that she wants this product to be generated on a global scale and a bigger market. It's not about her as an individual, it's her as an ambassador to a country, because it moves from, when you move, people don't know that we are properties. These are all the business aspects and entities that we need to take into consideration when we deal with film, because, or stage plays and productions, because you can take a stage play internationally, okay? And you have people who are willing to do that right now with Bahamians, but they have yet to find anyone who's really, really, I should say, bolted. And I can't blame or fault anyone for that, because I myself have been in the position where, look, I need to feed myself. I need to buy gas. I need to pay my light bill. I can't just, you see what I'm saying, give up everything for, quote unquote, as somebody said to me one time, a pipe dream.
So you mentioning that,
it's,
you mentioning the landscape at the moment, seemingly being ununified and also not being able to get the help. I want to bring in Moya Thompson into the conversation, if Moya will grant us a voice in this. She is the newest cultural director for film in the Bahamas.
okay,
And
awesome,
I
awesome.
congratulate her on that.
Yes,
And she's going to be working to ensure that a lot of these things are attended to. And she's had a fair share of production in the Bahamas and trying to figure out a path. Moya, what's your perspective regarding the sort of things we need to do, and also in that Galen was talking about we need to join together. The more people on a production, the more money, right? You have to shell out. So is it that we have to start thinking bigger budgets than trying to scrape by to actually have a production that can pack the power, or we just need to just have really good concepts?
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, good night.
All right, good to see everybody here. I cannot. I mean, there's a lot that I, from over the years that I would say that I observed. I think that everybody has made some fair and valid points. Thank you for the links, Travis. I have them open and I'm going to look at them. Thank you guys for the plug of whatever the show is. I had never heard of it, so I'm going to look at it. The chosen film that you were mentioning, and yeah, so I'm just taking in all this information. Well, film is, I totally agree with Gayleen as far as, because I was just sitting here thinking it, and we've had this conversation. I've been a part of various associations as it relates to film, and we've had this conversation repeatedly, and it really boils down to, at some point we do have to kind of come together as a body of sorts and create a project, and that has always been the call to but everybody does seem to be a bit disjointed when it comes to that. Of course, there are people who work together. Everybody has their group of people that they like to work with, and so on and so forth. But for the purpose of I guess a worldwide audience, I think we are all still at the level where we are trying to get to that next level where everybody seems to be working, and everybody has companies, and there's for those, while I remember, because I see some names here that I don't have, as Trevon had mentioned, I just started this week as the film, sorry, what is it called? The culture, I can't remember my
Cultural
title right
officer.
now. Sorry, I had a long day. No, it's not a cultural officer. But anyway, we'll call it a cultural officer. There are several cultural officers. There's presently another young lady who came on as a visual artist, and I came on as the film rep. And so I do know your concern, Gayleen, because other persons have mentioned that to me. My application actually was, it was from 2019. I had submitted my application to culture, but it only just was kind of seen last year once there was a change. And so with everything that the process took a year basically for my hiring to finally come through. And so I just kind of started this week. And one of the things that I'm doing now is we're trying to put together a registry. I think Leonardo was the only one who I have heard from so far today. I am not sure if I sent it to Travis, but Travis, I don't think I have your email. So if you can, I think I have you on Facebook. So if you can inbox me your email, I'd appreciate that. All persons can put their email in the message. We're trying to put together a registry just to be aware of our workers in film, because it has grown substantially over the last 7 to 10 years. And we want to be aware of persons who work in the industry, whether they work here or Canada or the United States. Persons, that we want to do workshops from the perspective of culture. We also want to host workshops. Grant writing is one of the ones that I really want to see kind of get off the ground very early, because the present grant period for culture has closed, I was told. However, grants came in over the summer, so I don't know if some of you may have sent some in between the last period, and they are we are presently waiting for those to come to me, but the next grant period would be in January. So prior to January, I would like to have a grant writing workshop, not only for grants and culture, because the grants and culture are limited, but there are grants available in culture. The amounts vary. I think it can be anywhere from, I guess, I don't want to, but around 5 to 7,000, something like that. It could be less, but I think the cap is like around $5 or $7,000, meaning the most you would be able to get, which isn't excellent, but it isn't bad. Like you can get some stuff done with that. You can shoot, you can shoot a trailer, or you can put together a package that can kind of help you get more money if that's, whatever you want to do. Or you can allocate it for something. But training is another thing. And that is something that Bassa has been, we have done in the past over the years. So I think it's a combination of training, but also synergy, like Galen said, and also just having access or knowing where to look. And so what I do realize is there are grants out there, but a lot of times, I guess people may not know how to access the grants, or have the ability to kind of write for the grants and that kind of thing. And so those are some things I would like to see, but I would also like your ideas for things. Again, I'm sucking in the knowledge of what I'm hearing here. And so if anyone has any questions outside of that, I don't know if I answered. I tried to just touch on what was spoken about. Travon.
No problem, no problem. I think that is.
You wanna reel me in, or if you have a question for me, then I can kind of go with the question.
Yeah, we talking about some of the growth cycle, but I feel like whatever you said pertaining to your contribution at the ministry is needed. Even inside surveys, and probably both surveys, that's pretty much the top need, funding. And as we talk about funding, I looked out in the chat and I saw Leo, he mentioned that these guys for the chosen, they're punching like what, $8 million per season. I don't know if that's right. That's right, Leo? $8 million
Yeah,
per
it's
season?
actually it's 3 million per season actually. So correction.
$3 million.
So yeah, they crowdfund $3 million per season, and somehow they then fund 3 seasons, and halfway through the fourth one day, and wow, it's crazy.
So Moya, I don't know, like, should we be thinking about for films to work, like, should we be thinking about larger budgets? I know we try to get by with what we can get by with, but should we be thinking about larger budgets if we're actually thinking about employing people? Should we be focused in that direction?
Can I
start? I think that we do need to move into the feature film or series. Netflix has a lot of availability, because I'm seeing a lot of stuff Caribbean. I've seen several Jamaican projects on Netflix. I've seen a number of African film, I don't want to say films because it's been series as well on Netflix. And so I do think that we need to move into a market that is outside of the Bahamas. I think that we do need to project and, mentally in our head, have it in our head that our end goal is for this project to be in this space. But we have to fight the elephant.
Do we do that by trying to attract international producers with the money, or do we do that by raising the money ourselves?
We would have to do. Let me not say what we would have to do. I think that we would have to attract them to the story. I think that Craig said it. Craig said it better. He did say it. Thought he said it very well. Is that you just need you need a story that is universal, but that also is has a Bahamian take on it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so I do think that
Story
I am a
also.
person, I believe that you have to put your money where your mouth is. Like I do believe that you
Mm.
cannot go into it kind of being like, oh, I'm waiting for someone else to invest in me. Like you have to be willing to put in some initial seed, and then build from that point with grants. And that's why I said like a grant that you could possibly get from culture or of any other source that may be in that range of 5,000, 10,000, 7,000, whatever,
Mhm.
can be for your your like Lovato spoke to us in our last meeting or meeting before last, I think 2 meetings ago, about pitching. And so it's to put together your pitch and to put together probably a reel or a trailer or a segment, like Kareem would have done for Cargo, where he did. If you go on YouTube, you'll see the passage, which was like a 7-minute excerpt that shows a portion of Cargo. And so for those of you who've seen Cargo, if you go on YouTube, you'll see the passage, which is an actual scene from the Cargo. But in Cargo is a different set of actors, because then he used passage to, I guess, draw people into the story. Like, this is what we're doing. And so
Mhm.
I think that's where your money, your little couple dollars that you could scrape, you can get, and you can get your grants to do that, to do the trailer
Try
or
to
to do
work
a
on
scene
trailers
from
and
the movie.
shorts. Yeah.
Yeah. And so within that trailer, that you can bring in, you're only doing a scene, a 5-minute scene or a 10-minute scene, if that much. And so you can hire a professional sound person, a professional cinematographer. If you edit, then you can edit it yourself, and you can get actors, you can give them a couple dollars as well. And then that can be the catalyst for which you can then do your grant, or you write your proposal, and you have your reel or your treat, whatever. You have everything. You have your video, you have your written proposal, your treatment, and all that, to then say, hey, invest in me. And they, you know what I mean? So then
Right.
they would have seen that you invested in yourself. And
Right.
they would say,
Right.
oh, I like this. Yeah, and of course, as a part of your proposal, you may, you know, suggest an actor or something like that, or, you know, we have some Bahamian people who kind of have an interest. And so if you want to try to like reach out to somebody who has some kind of Bahamian connection, Rick Fox has actually been very good with kind of trying to, I don't know how far he wants to go as far as his participation, but he has been pretty good with like communicating with us,
Mhm.
or whatever. So like there are different people that you can kind of probably try to attach to the project and that kind of thing, who have had international success.
Yeah, I definitely like that contribution. A lot of us don't think about how we package a project, who's attached to it, and how that adds value to being able to pick up funding, financing, or production. I see Brett. Brett, are you available to talk? Are you are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. What's up?
Hey, I'm glad to have you on, man. I wanted to hear if you had any perspective. I know you asked the question to Mr. Woods. Are you planning something? Do you have any perspective on how you'd sustain film projects?
Not really. I think I've shifted more uh, away from like me actually having trying to get my vision on screen, and just try to collaborate with other people who have visions and try to help them out. So
Uh,
I'm not in the driver's seat as much.
I see, I see. But if you did think about a great way to approach a project, you ended up in a partnership with somebody, what would be the route that would be more favorable to you? You think you'd like to crowdfund? Do you think you'd like to go to festival and see if you can pick up a producer off of a trailer or a short? Or do you think you can find enough sponsors to get a feature going and get distribution? Like, what sort of way sounds best?
Well, my my take is that the way that sounds best would be the way that whatever's right for that project. Because if you look at even like made for TV type movies, right? Like they all have cookie cutter, like things that you could really like, or even just like the spring break genre. It's like, well, spring break genre, you're not going to be doing that at film festivals. Like you're most likely just going to try to do, you know what I mean? So it's like, depending on what genre or what category you're in, then you would take the route that's most effective for that category. But there's a lot of opportunities that people can exploit. I mean, it's just what vehicle do you want to invest your next year or two of your life into? And there's a lot of demand for content right now, despite the fact that there's a million different contents out there.
Right. That's a good way to look at it. In fact, how you said that there's a lot of demand. A lot of that demand seems to be coming from the streaming providers. Seems to be coming, Disney's throwing their hat into it. You have HBO. Everybody is trying to do the streaming thing, right? Does it look like that's really going to be the way to go? Serials?
So, I mean, again, I'm not trying to get something off the ground, but I have worked on several Netflix and Apple TV projects in the Bahamas where they're just shooting one episode of a series here. So they're still churning them out. But as far as like I've never taken a project to, from fundraising or whatever to production. I've just worked on other people's projects.
That's already funded.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I see Carmen Vargas on the line. Carmen, do you have any perspective on this?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm still pretty much learning the film industry in the Bahamas, but I've always got an interest in it. It is a little slow, and for people who want to learn film, for me, I had to learn online. So a lot of us don't have the opportunity to go away to school. So I would like to see more film projects for people who want to go into the industry.
So what aspect of filmmaking are you interested in?
I like editing.
Okay. Now, you definitely would be in demand. We see post-production high up on the survey.
How much do you like
And I see
editing?
Leo was ready to talk. I knew Leo was ready to talk.
How much do you like editing? Just a little bit or like a lot?
It depends.
Well, I think you guys need to talk. Leo is always filming. He's always and I very much admire Leo because he doesn't let anything stop him from making a film. So you would get a lot of practice. You would get a lot of exposure, and he's also getting very much into coloring, and that's a big thing for post-production. That really makes the film come alive. So definitely, it would be great if you guys.
Brett's always looking for editors as well on smaller projects, not narratives or anything.
See how things just opened up?
We're talking about your videos, Brett. We're on movies right now.
See, Carmen, you have two filmmakers.
You want to get some experience? I gave you.
Yeah, I see that.
So just make
Don't
sure
mind
you put
Brett
your
talking about
information.
small
You put your
projects, right?
information into
Brett
the
do
chat.
small.
Okay, no problem.
Travis, before I go to you, Travis, Ophir, you're over in Canada right now. You're getting to see it. I don't know if I was supposed, if I could even say what sets you were on. I guess you could kind of talk about that. What's in style right now? What's making all the money?
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
So one of the sets I was on was Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And then I was on another set. It was a film called Budgie. It's still in, I think it's still in production. And there's another set called, I can't remember the name, but it stars Ryan Destiny. She plays this American boxer. She's the first like African American boxer to make it to the Olympics. So I think it pretty much like varies in terms of the content. Yeah, so I think for me, one of the things that I think like stands out in terms of what we have to do is in order for us to want to play in this market and be a part of the international market, we have to be exposed to it. Like how you were talking about, okay, creating the business plan or whatever, a lot of persons don't even know like where to start. So I think like education and like being in it, I think is like so important in order to know how to pitch, how to communicate with, you know, producers and things like that. So we have to like we have to be in the conversation. And like you say, just sometimes you don't even have to like have a film that's in a film festival. Just go to film festivals, be around there, listen to people talk, randomly talk to somebody. Because when I go on stuff, I like randomly talk to people and like, you know, get knowledge about people. So how did you get on and everything like that? And then you network from there. So I think like you have to like be in the nucleus so that we know how to converse to get our projects on board.
Okay.
So we have to
Awesome.
we have to educate ourselves.
Yeah, we do. And I think one of the things we are least educated in is the business part of it. In fact, I've been sending up a lot of posts at the beginning of the year talking about financial part of filmmaking, fundraising, and also sharing a couple of my contacts I got at Toronto International Film Festival. And man, I haven't seen anybody like posting under it. And then I was wondering if anybody really was in a position to take advantage of dealing with some of these distributors. And so that means that we really have to get to the point where we can play ball at those levels.
Yeah,
And yeah, we're gonna have to. And I think the last question, because I know we got 1 minute to 10. I don't want to take you too far with that. Going back to Travis. Now I saw a filmmaker recently. He's launched a platform. He's advertising it on Facebook. I think it's called Color something. But I know Conrad Knowles is behind it. And he is creating a platform where you can watch his films or buy a viewing of his films on his website for like $2.99, I believe, or something like that. Do you think that that's a viable way to fundraise? I mean, obviously your film would have to be complete, right? But do you think that's a viable way to make money as a filmmaker?
It could be. Again, it comes down to expenses and costs, right? So even just from knowing what you might have to go through to get a bank account set up in order, if you're getting local funds here versus you may have like if you have an American bank account, it could be a little bit more, a little less expensive and but not necessarily more convenient. You have that, and then you have to build the website platform, and to do that, make that secure, you know, do the payments. Let's just say as an expense line item, that could easily be $8,000 to $10,000 if you try to do that like the right way as well too, right? Wow. So it comes down to having that as a line item. If you have a film that you're doing, making sure it's, you know, the platform supports that. You do $2.99 per person. Now it goes back to audience. How much people could you get to go online and then pay for this? Are you going to do additional advertising for this as well too? You might want to do paid promotion and advertising that you could do online as well too, whether that might be through Google ads, YouTube ads, but they also come at a cost as well too. It'll definitely help you get more reach, but it then comes to the cost of, okay, once they get to the website, are they going to sign up and actually pay for this? And then how much are they going to actually pay? On top of that, who knows if you don't have somebody super smart to go on the website and then rip
Thank you.
the file, like the file as well too, and then you have a pirating issue that you have to go on. If you're really going to get deep, do you have legal protecting you around it as well, do in terms of IP, and then how much does that cost? Again, it all comes down to cost and expenses.
Wow. So you think it's worth it being your own distributor?
Definitely. I think if you could, it comes back down to just how efficient and sustainable it could be. But if you own your own product, I don't see that being any different than owning your own masters to like music that you have. Once you own your own your own distribution, I think that's always the best place to be, because now you have that as a bargaining chip as well too, in terms of how far you want to go it and who owns it versus having to pay a percentage and stuff like that. But it comes you have to look at it as a piece of the business, not just a strategic or a cool thing to do. And then how long is that going to last? You might very well not really care as much in terms of somebody ripping the file or the MP4 once that movie is launched, if you only meant for it to be like a one-time thing, or if it's a live stream. So you have to think about your strategies from that regard as well too. If you do it as a live stream, it's just a one and done. It's just one of an event type of thing. You definitely might want to keep the video that you're doing, probably repurpose it and re-edit it for something else. But it all depends on the lay of the land strategy. But but to answer your main question, owning your distribution is always the best route, no matter what the business is. It's just is it sustainable enough to maintain that distribution for what you need to do in order to execute.
Wow. Yeah. That's good. That's good. I've seen a lot of persons using the live streaming route too, but like more so for conferences. Persons maybe pay $30, or maybe they pay $100 to get into this, and they're on for maybe 2 or 3 hours. But I'm wondering if that can cross over into filmmaking, is like showing a film as well. Would people be into doing that, or would you need, like, I guess, a face or some really strong marketing power to make something like that work?
Well, I mean, maybe, and that depends as well too, because I also see movies. Now, granted, they do have some like 1 or 2 famous people in the movie, but it doesn't have to be stacked. I've seen movies that done really well for just throwing people who have not been traditional actors in the movie as well too, which makes it a win for everybody, including the actor. Again, it really comes down to compelling story, I think, of everything. So you have to think of story. Think story and business go hand in hand if you're thinking about the industry as a business. As much as you try to avoid it, you can't separate the two, especially if essentially what people are trying to come at this as a career. If it's going to be a career, it is a business, and you have to think about those two things. You have to balance that left and right brain.
Yes, definitely. Words to think about. Want to thank everybody. You saying something, Leo?
I just wanted to say one random gem.
Go ahead.
Real thought. Your film don't have to be the best thing ever. Just throwing that out there.
Don't defeat that perfectionism as well too. Like, you start somewhere, even if you're just trying to get some stuff out. It could be a shoestring budget, but it could be a good story. Just get it out. You know what I mean? You never know. Or just show people what you are capable of. It might not be audience ready, but whatever you do might be good enough for an investor to believe in you and to be to invest in the story. Don't think, oh, it has to be this great thing out the door, or you don't do it at all, because that's what a lot of people get stuck in that position as well too.
Version 1 is always version 1. You can never get back.
You know, I am a
Get to the
proponent
next one.
of actually your draft process, your pre-process, ensuring that, you know, even though you mightn't get it perfect, you try to work out the kinks on paper as much as possible before you really spend you know, a lot of change. And I think that's where the American model, well, the international model has an advantage in that you have, you know, a lot of creative directors, persons who don't really get into the production side of it, but they sort through the story. They see what opportunities the stories give in terms of, you know, finding funding for it, and they find you the distribution. They make sure you bring a solid package, so that, you know, the chances of this movie working is higher. You know, when you can shoot your movie, when you can write your movie, and you can hire whoever you want to hire, you know, you're trying to go the route that most likely is easier for you because, you know, your budget constraints and all of that stuff. But I think we still need to be challenged along, do we have a good business plan? Do we have a good business concept? And can we execute? And even, you know, just as much as we are excited about the beginning, be excited at the end, because a lot of films that we have done, you know, after we've made it and we put it out there, we don't even try to touch it anymore. You know, we don't show anybody else it. We don't have that same passion to try to show persons it. We try to go on to the next film, but, you know, I think lessons still have to be learned about, you know, how we work these phases when we get out of production. What's next, you know, and that is so important to our career or our sustainability even in the industry. So thank you all for attending this meeting. We're going to try to keep it up, try to bring something else there. As I said before, we're looking at Glenn Gerthier, who was a part of the production team for The Sound of Water. He said that he'll come on the 22nd, so hope you guys make it. And thank you all for being a part of this discussion. If you have your information and you like persons to be able to reach you, or you like to reach other persons, just give you an opportunity to put your information in the chat. I'll put mine first. Just put your information in the chat, so that we can stay connected. As Galen said, we need to stay connected, and we need to do this thing for real.
Thanks, Trevon. Appreciate it, man. Great call. Thank you, everybody. Talk to y'all.
All
soon.
right, good night, everyone.
Awesome. Good evening.
Trevon, 100 believe you was the reason my script ain't finished.
Leo, you always trying to blame somebody for the stuff you used to. Stop blaming Trevon, please.
Trevor, Brianna, his protege, or Ophea #2, is not finished my script because she be talking about draft and need to redraft and this foolishness.
Well, that's the process that you got to go through.
No, that's the process you teach her.
Hey,
It's a
you
whole
know, the
different
life
thing.
of Pi went through 10 drafts, right?
The script?
Yep.
Oh, I never even watched the Life of Pi, so I wouldn't even know.
Wow, I chose a bad example.
Leon is not. Leon, you something else. Leon, you something else.
Who else still on this call? Y'all in mind? Who else still there? Only our street. Hey, Moya.
Yay.
Moya, I need to make a movie. I need to finish this next film before Independence. So I need to be on the first one cracking to get this brand at the beginning of the new year. What I need to do.
So this is my third day on the job. I haven't actually seen the thing on, but what I will say is that we would be, I'll say for me, because Trevon and myself were talking about like we talk about training, and so we would want almost like a barter of assisting with training. Okay, Leo.
Moya.
Assisting with training, because we want to do some training and we want to develop some young filmmakers, whether in school, in high schools. We're trying to get it from the ground. And so those are some things we want. So,
I have a question.
yes. Yes,
I don't know if you
Sophia. You have a question for me
Yeah,
or
for
for
you,
somebody else?
Um,
Oh, okay.
since you're part, and a lot of things are changing with culture, right? Why don't you guys well, this isn't really a question. It's probably almost a suggestion, I guess. Why don't you
Mhm.
guys have it where every year you get a group of persons who are interested, and you do different trips to different film festivals and stuff, get a cohort, they apply and whatever, and you guys go through the application, and then you get a cohort to go to different film festivals so that they could be so they could see how it is and be able to converse with people actually in the industry and get exposed.
You're saying arrange
Yeah,
for young people to go to film
yeah,
festivals.
a cohort, put a cohort together. They'll have to, I guess they'll have, if you guys want to have an application process or whatever, and whoever stands out to you, you get this cohort and you could go to different film festivals. It could be a yearly thing to get them in that space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Noted. The thing, what I will say, what I will say with the limited amount of information that I have is that, okay, Javon, you have to cut this out. But anyway, so a significant amount of the budget